Okay, good morning, good evening, everyone. I take privilege in welcoming you all for today's Alumni Cast. Alumni Cast is a series of sessions that brings our alumni to share their experience, success, and their impact to society and communities. We started this in 2020, and so far we have conducted close to about 11 sessions. We continue to have these sessions with our alumnus who have reached their pinnacle of their professional career and impacting our societies and communities. And today we are going to have yet another interesting session. I think I love the topic that was given today, humanizing banking, digital at the fore and humans at the core. I'm sure I think this is going to be yet another interesting topic. My request to everyone is, first of all, thanks for who have tuned into this alumni cast. If you're not able to see your friends on the Zoom screen, please ask them to join because it takes a lot of work and coordination to make this event happen. Today we have a chief guest. I would like to welcome Dr. G. Kanabiran. I think he's known to everyone. I think he recently has taken over as a director in charge at NIT Trichy. He is a recipient of Commonwealth Professional Fellowship, Fulbright Fellowship, and he has done several wonders. I think in the past 3 decades he is associated with the institute. He currently is also playing the role of the director of IIIT at Sri City. He has launched several initiatives, including adding specialization courses such as AI, ML, cybersecurity, cyber physical, etc. I would like to welcome him and to share a few words before we start the session. Dr. Kanabiran, over to you.
Thank you, Raja, and good evening to all of you. Mr. Shyam Srinivasan, the MD and CEO of Federal Bank, the host, Mr. Krishna Kumar, Mali, Sai, and many other friends from the alumni, my faculty colleagues, Dr. Umabadi, Dr. Bhakta, Dr. Anandaraman, and others. And I'm happy that many MBA students have also joined. First of all, I think as the director in charge, I'm attending the first alumni cast, although the other 11 events, many of them I have attended. And I'm really excited to be part of this event today. And first of all, Mr. Shyam, thank you for agreeing to be part of this event. And I think the topic is very good, and you have a lot of experience in this field, and all of us will benefit. And one thing I was looking at is studying production engineering from NIT Trichy, and you are a successful banker today. Maybe you will tell us what aspect of your stay in NIT Trichy, really helped you to move from production engineering to banking. That's one thing that I wanted to know. And as director in charge, I'm happy that I'm a director in charge of an institution which is growing very fast in the past decades, particularly in the last 5 years. Of course, we miss Professor Minnie Thomas, who was successfully leading this institution for the last 5 years. And as you are aware that we are one of the top 10, in fact, we are top 9 in the NIRF ranking. And this is a big achievement at the national level. And we also have significant positions at the international level. And we continue to grow in major growth parameters, and particularly in perception, which is one of the important parameters of ranking of institutions, both at the national and the international level. And the achievements of alumni is important, and it is significantly contributing to the parameter of perception. And obviously, we derive a lot of value from you, Mr. Shyam, and others. And I would like to once again thank you for participating in this. And as Raja was saying, this topic is really exciting. And as a faculty of management, I used to teach IT in industries, and I used to quote case studies where many decades ago and the banking industry, particularly the employee unions, opposed introduction of computers in the banks. So it seems that computers were introduced as ledger posting machines those days in the banking industry. And later, if all of us remember that we had branches of certain banks saying fully computerized branch, and those branches were, sort of saying that we are fully computerized. Today, IT and the emerging technologies have changed the banking industry. Mr. Shyam will talk about it. The customer facing points, customer touching points, all that has gone completely transformed. And this is an exciting topic, and I'm also keen, like every other person in this group, to listen to Mr. Shyam. I'm also happy to welcome Mr. Krishna Kumar, who is the host of the event, and we already started working, and he is actually helping us in the business incubator in Triple City. Welcome, Mr. Krishna Kumar and other friends. It's over to Raja.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kanabiran, for the brief notes shared. I think one thing what you said, which is quite interesting, which I think I would like to hear from both from the speaker and also from the moderator on that. The bank and the financial sector is, I think, going through a major transformation. In fact, I was in Vegas. Last week, I think I was there. I see many for the cloud event, companies like Capital One to Goldman Sachs. If you look at all these financial services company, I think they are talking about technology and how they are transforming the banks. I think we are able to get that feel. For a moment, I thought, okay, what's happening in this space? All these banking companies and financial services companies, they are talking technology more than a Silicon Valley based technology companies, right? That is what we are seeing, a paradigm shift that is happening. At the same time, there are several unicorns are getting born out of the Indian subcontinent. I think I don't want to steal the thunder of the speaker and the moderator, I think, today. And I take pleasure to introduce Shyam and Krishna Kumar. Maybe I ask Mahalingam Mali to do this on behalf of Alumni Cast. Mali, over to you.
Thanks, Raja. Thanks, Kanabiran, for joining us and saying those lovely words to kick off the session. Thank you, both of you. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's kind of a difficult job I have today. I was explicitly told by Shyam that I could not chat with him. I was explicitly told by Shyam that this should be about banking and industry and not about Srinivasan. But having said that, we have to say a few words to let people know Shyam the person as well. And that's what I'm doing. See, as I was preparing to do this in my mind, I realized that when you know somebody very, very well, and you kind of don't realize the overall enormity or impact of what they've achieved. Me and Shyam talk to each other every week, and I keep pulling his leg and he pulls my leg and stuff like that. But when you step back and say, I want to do a formal introduction of Shyam, you realize how much more he's achieved actually than I actually thought. I'm going to get it from Shyam after this for what I'm saying right now, but I still go ahead. Shyam is actually a very humble, understated person, so I'll do a bit of the bragging for him. Okay, so Shyam in his college days REC days was production, Lapis, wicketkeeper in the cricket team. Anantraman knows there. Good bat also. So, and he was, if I remember, head of the reception committee at Festember, because nobody else except Shyam could have done the job better for various reasons. We won't talk about it now. He was a big hit. He was a big hit as that, I can tell you that much. Okay, that's for another day, maybe when all of us meet unofficially, so to say. He moved on from REC and actually did what an engineer should do, worked with Lucas TVS, then went to Computer Point and then joined IIM Calcutta. I had gotten 1 year earlier. That's another story entirely. So me and Shyam at IIM Calcutta, along with Lala here and Gopi, who spoke to us earlier also. So after IIM Calcutta, he went back to the computer industry, so to say, to Wipro, and then joined Citi and did some fabulous jobs at Citi, and then went on to Standard Chartered, debit cards, and then went on to head Standard Chartered Malaysia and Standard Chartered India, till around dozen years back when Federal Bank decided to reinvent themselves and they could look no further than Shyam. And aiding in the process of Federal Bank was another REC classmate of ours called Govinda here. So it's been a very REC club kind of thing in this. So Federal Bank got lucky, and over the last 12 years, at the risk of sounding very, very pompous, Shyam has transformed the bank. I'm saying it not from an external point of view, but I work closely with many of the employees of Federal Bank, and they just love him. And he's done so many things to make them love him. I can tell you that much. Okay, and he's changed the culture entirely. It's now gone digital. It's doing everything with tech. All that Raja was talking about. They adopted technology like crazy. They're very tech friendly and they're very, very forward-looking. Raja, to your question, and I think Shyam, KK, and Shyam will talk about it. This is the professional side of Shyam, and I think he's achieved what most people would have aspired to achieve and would not have achieved. Shyam is there, up there. Okay. Now I find it funny saying this because I talk to him so often. So, but that apart, Shyam, the human being, is something else. I can tell you. When me and my wife Uma had visited him on his 50th birthday, most bankers for a 50th birthday would have thrown a big bash. Guess what we did? We visited Guruvayur temple. I can tell you. That's how Shyam is. Deeply meditative man, very simple man, very grounded man. And, there's a saying that nice people don't finish first. I've said this before, I'm saying it again. Shyam is a rare example of a very, very nice person, really finishing really ahead of many, many others. There are people in your life who you would like to say, I went to the same college with, and for me, Shyam is right up there. Shyam, thanks so much for accepting to do this for us. Thanks so much. I will now hand it over to KK to take it over. Thanks, Shyam. Yeah.
Hey. So KK, before you go, just kick off the session, I think to all the audience, if you have any questions, you can post it on the chat window and ask your friends to just to tune in, and we will take the question answer towards the end of the call. Over to you,
Raja,
KK.
I just want to say, sorry, a few words about KK before we get into the call. KK, just to give you sorry about this, in the flow of Shyam, I kind of handed it over to him before talking about. Really sorry. KK again is too close to be introducing formally. KK and my brother Ram Kumar were classmates in school, and I've seen him at home as a 12-year-old boy and 13-year-old boy. So fair degree, like Shyam, I have for fair degree of contempt we have for each other. So that happens with the familiarity. KK again is 1988 batch of NIT Trichy, REC Trichy. Then I worked for some years and went on to do an MBA from Liba. And the best part of KK, he's a stock market expert. He's been in the capital market for the last 26 years, among the top 10 fund managers. And I think KK and Shyam do have a professional relationship when he was in Sundaram Mutual. I think they were big investors. And he was among the top 10 investment managers, as I told earlier. On campus, he was captain of the volleyball team. Then I think he was president of the Institution of Engineers and a lot of other naughty things which we can't talk about right now, KK. And knowing what KK is today, I'm sure he must have been naughty on campus with age mellowing him. Thanks so much, KK, for accepting this, and apologies for the break before introducing you. All the best. I'm sure you'll bring the best out of Shyam, and we're going to have a wonderful session. Thanks, KK.
Thanks, Mali. Thanks, Professor and Raja, for the warm words, and thanks for all of you for having tuned in. So, Shyam, welcome to you again. As Mali said, it's been a real pleasure knowing you very closely for over a decade as you transformed Federal Bank. Just to put some numbers in perspective, I think the business done by Federal Bank probably grew from 60,000 crores to about 3 lakh crores today, as you sit after 11 years nearly at the helm. Profits have again quadrupled from 400 crores to nearly 2,000 crores this year. And market cap is about 18,000 crores as we speak. And, you've been recognized as the best banker of the year FY20 by Business Standard, in addition to many other recognitions that you have won in the past. So it's a real honor to be here to kind of moderate a session with you and talk about all this with you. One other thing that I want to mention here, Shyam, is that you're one of the few bankers who got 13 years at the helm, right? I think RBI has certain regulations and, people don't get such a long stint I think you're one of the few who have got a 13-year stint at Federal Bank, and we're really proud of that, basically. So just before we get into the business, but at REC, you did production engineering, right? So what are the key takeaways from your stint at REC? Like our prof wanted to also understand. So what did you enjoy at REC? What are the best moments, your highlight, the winning points, the challenges, and what are the key learnings that stayed with you after 30 years, 40 years?
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much, KK, Mali, Professor, Raja, entire team. I'm delighted that so many people have actually chosen to spend their Sunday listening and talking to us. So it's a privilege. KK, when you say what did we learn in REC and what are the highlights, I often think about it. And I want to say that the best thing about my engineering is I knew I did not want to be an engineer in my career. Right? It's not that I was, I did not want to apply the principles of engineering, which hopefully is sort of ingrained in us. But I know I'm not going to make a good engineer. So I was one of those in my third year when all of us get into this great American dream. I said, I'm not doing this, which is, I was in Lapis room 115, 116, 117, 118. 114, 113, 112, 111, 110 are all in the US. And so you can imagine the situation we would have been at that point in time when there was like exceptional fever to apply to the US. And you know how it is, right? In the third, fourth year, and that I don't know how it is now, but in the mid 80s, it was, we call it ROTGAD, realization of the great American dream. I don't know if the terminology still sticks in REC, but I had said to myself, this is not something that I want to pursue. And I want to get into maybe management in some form. And so the aspirations were laid out from a point of view of realizing what I did not want to be, not quite I wanted to be. And then, sort of life gives you turns and twists and, one leads to the other. But I was quite clear, I wanted a career in banking or finance very early. Actually, to be honest, right out of campus, the desire was to be in consulting. But I realized after management that was not something I wanted to be. So I think the fact that I didn't have this natural desire to be a hardcore manufacturing in the plant kind of person sort of steered my thinking around where else, what else. So trying entrepreneurship was not something I sort of greatly went after. So I think leadership, management kind of programs was inviting. I did have an inspiration of an uncle of mine who had done IIT and went to IIM. So maybe that was sort of ingrained in me, or that was a secret desire, so to say. So, and it mercifully it all worked out. Not exactly the way you would have liked it to at the time it would have liked to, but who's to say these things just happen, and I have no regrets. So the period in REC, of course, the fact that you've got friends who are beyond just batchmates, right? I mean, 30 years later, 40 years later, I just saw somebody in my batch writing a post in the screen saying, 37 years later saying hi. These are sort of touching lifelong experiences. So REC is about memories, friendships, great networking, remarkable discovery of oneself. We were all sort of coming from day scholars in school, pretty well parented and protected. So you were thrown into the deep end in a campus in REC, and certainly the campus was not anything like what it is today. So it was a great discovery of oneself. And I think the 5 years there, and we were the last 5-year batch, was absolutely memorable. And it also taught me what I did not want to be. So I am quite delighted the way it shaped up. So yeah, great partnerships, great friendships, and a discovery of what I did not want to do.
I think it's a great place. I think we become really individuals, who can take
absolutely
understand what's life all about. Yeah. So moving on to your IMC stint, basically. So what do you like about it? And one question I want to ask you, Mali, also later is that most of you guys land up in financial services, right? IMC is typically BFSI as a career. So what's so special about IMC?
Again, KK, like I said, the IMC opportunity was clearly I went in with the mindset saying I want to be a banker. So to me, it was not the path to what I wanted to accomplish. Though I must confess, right out of campus, I did not get the job I want. It took me a year to get the job I want, or a little more than a year to get the job I wanted. Right, but it was what I did. The summer project came to me because I had technical background in my earlier pre-IIM, so I got a assignment with Wipro, and right out of campus, Wipro hired me. But I think the heart was beating to go into finance and banking, so it just took me a year plus to get into banking. But I think most of us who went to IIM Cal, particularly if you had a little more work experience, your thoughts were better formed. You had a sense of where you wanted to, and you could zero in on areas that you thought were more productive for you, helpful for you. So for me, it was quite clear that I did want to be in banking, and it many of our colleagues who came in in IIM had an engineering background but had a finance bent. And I think the program also was tailored quite remarkably for being getting into banking. Was the first two terms had a finance guru who, even now, the mention of his name, we all shiver, right? And he kept us absolutely on toes and made sure that at least, if nothing else, we knew the 101 of finance, and helped us to shape our careers there. So it was quite a useful and a career shaping opportunity.
Sure. So, and, Shyam, it's very rare for somebody like you who spent a lot of years, decades in different geographies, different port verticals in cities, San Sea, to look at coming back to India, and join kind of an Indian bank, right? So, probably what made you do this shift, and what did you aspire to be? Probably was you always you want to be the head of a bank at some point in time, or was it more by chance?
Yeah,
So,
no,
could you just share some.
Yeah, that was a crazy passion. I mean, from 2000, when I came back to India, I was outside for 7 years. I came back because I wanted to be running a big facility in India. And that was the time when I left Citi to come to Stanchart India and run the cards business. And then I had an opportunity to leave India only because they asked me to run Malaysia as a country. But when I was doing Malaysia as a country, I had an opportunity to go to Hong Kong as country head or come back to India. And my heart was coming back to India. So I let go of Hong Kong to come back to India. And as I came back to India and I was running the India business, the bug to be a bank CEO was just was not bug. I mean, it's sort of that chip had entered my system, so it was not going away. To be honest, certainly working in I don't like to call it so, but at that point in time, Federal was called, or even now maybe, an old generation South headquartered unionized bank. And so when the first call came from the headhunter, I literally put it down saying, thank you very much. I'm a multinational snob, don't call me. But I think, sort of they prevailed on me, and I did like the idea of taking something and making it hopefully, a way better than where I entered. It's a long journey. I'm not claiming any victory yet, but it's been absolutely fascinating. And yes, absolutely what I wanted to be. I did want to run a bank. Maybe I was blessed to get it very early in my professional life. And I'm also quite lucky that the regulators and the board have agreed to keep me as long as I have. Okay, it's not 13, it's 14 years. And I hope a little more, right? So yeah, I do hope I can do justice to that opportunity that has come my way. But it's like everything else. It's never easy. You have to. There are good days, bad days, but it's exactly what I wanted it to be. I'm not saying it's exactly the way what I wanted to be. I'm not saying it wanted it to be. I wanted to be a banker, a CEO, if I can. That I got. But how it is, time only history will judge. But yeah, we are making a lot of hard work.
Yeah, sure. So like you mentioned, you moved in from an MNC, bank. A guy suited coming into a federal bank should have raised a few eyebrows as he walked in. And you had a unionized labor, clerical staff, and the bank was probably not investing in technology as much in the early part of this century, and so a lot of challenges, right? So and you've really changed the bank to what it is today. One of the it's probably the 6th largest private sector bank, and nibbling at the heels the 5th one. And in quality, I would consider it probably top 5. So Shyam, be generous with your time. Just take us through your journey, little bit of the, the high point of the transformation, and touch upon the human, feel in terms of what you did, transforming the union labor to more a very high performing kind of team. So please, our time is yours.
Thanks. I think firstly, I don't want to make this union and labor as a sort of a center of plate topic. Frankly, from then to now, they exist. I don't want to challenge their presence. They have their job to do. I have been holding on very dearly to the thought that if you're doing the right things consistently, most occasions people will follow. Second, if you are not trying to be a messiah saying that I've been there and I'm showing you the promised land and I am doing mega changes and doing formalized program of change management, I think people understand it at a more subtle and nuanced way. I mean, I have not to this day called a program called Parivartan or change management. I hate using that because the moment I tell somebody I'm here to change, guard is up, right? Who are you to make a change? So that's my personal philosophy. I think if you demonstrate something and win by little, it usually works. So all this period of time, we've made, I think, a reasonable amount of progress on reshaping people, because when I joined our bank, the average workforce age was about 52. Today it is 36. Right. So both by a natural consequence of a large number of people retiring each passing year, we have hired over 8,000 people who joined us right out of campus. I have chosen not to do large-scale lateral recruitments, right? So we have not brought a bunch of super-duper heavy hitting from another institution to come and say, you know what, I can change it, I'll do it better than you, and you guys follow me. Yeah, we brought very selectively. I'm not saying there are none, but we've pretty cherry-picked the kind of people who share the same passion, right? Who we've all come for way less than what they would have normally earned in another organization, right? It also speaks to the fact that their mission in life is not just to be extremely financially successful, but by part of some transformation which is lasting, and where maybe each of them gets a badge of being a winner in their chosen area. And I know hopefully over time the stock will do well and they'll make returns, but certainly not at compensations that are anything compared to any other large multinational or private sector banks, which all of them could have got at the snap of a finger. So I think the team composition are people who have a shared vision of wanting to make something special. Lots and lots of younger executives who've joined, and now they're 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years in the bank. They've signed up to it. So actually now it's when you start evangelizing, you convert one and they convert four and then they convert eight, right? And that's how it's a geometrical progression that happens. It never is like you stand on the top of a terrace and say, listen, guys, I'm going to change. So I think it's been very granular. It's very gradual. As they say, gradual and then it's sudden. So I'm hoping that it's in that inflection where it's been gradual, but it will be sudden and it'll show. It is showing. I mean, people today, I'm very delighted. We'll do a show off today. Today, there was this government of India had this very big do in Delhi, and it's a very big event. It's called the digital, Prime Minister announces the digital winners of digital banking, and it's called Digital Done. The winner is Federal Bank today. Just today, we collected the award. Right, and it's not just private sector banks or whatever. It's all banks. So I do think these speak to the fact that we've been able to address some requirements of our sort of stakeholders, and we invest heavily in the digital capability. And I think the great thing about digital capability is it's geography, culture agnostic. Right, it's just like Dhoni from Jharkhand was as successful as Virat Kohli from Delhi or Sachin from Mumbai, right? So I don't think any longer it's where you are born or where you reside. And I keep writing to my team, pin codes don't matter, zip codes do. Right? 683101 or 40001, it doesn't matter. Pin codes don't matter actually. And so I think the transformation is, I've cautioned it by saying, we are in the journey. I'm not at any point in time declaring any victory. But yeah, the journey is quite fascinating. People are switched on. They carry the torch and believe in it. And hopefully it will be something that, the aspiration of the bank is most admired bank. We're not saying biggest, most profitable, largest, highest market share. The aspiration is most admired, and admiration is earned and never bought. And it can reset to zero every day. I keep telling the team it's a taxi ride. Every day is the meter resets to zero. So it's hard work, but I do think, and I hope fondly that many are switched on to it. Many are pursuing it quite vigorously. And, many of our senior jobs is to nudge it along all the time.
Sure.
So yeah, long answer to your question.
No, I think first of all, I think great. Congrats for the win at the national level. So before probably we go to the technology part of it, if you could spend a minute on 3 key challenges that you probably encountered at the bank. Forget the labor part of it, but outside of it, probably COVID was one where you probably didn't. I mean, none of us knew what it's going to be. So 2, 3 tough moments at Federal Bank, which you kind of strategized and overcame the difficulties. So if you could highlight 2, 3 key wins, that'd be great.
One KK was that springs to mind immediately. In August 2018, there was this unprecedented floods. I mean, the house that I'm living in, where I'm speaking from now, was washed out. My home was washed out. My data center is just a kilometer away from my home, was washed out. Right? So we had a situation where the headquarters itself was like literally drowning. And we have 500-600 people, me, my executive director, a couple of my senior teams sit here. So it was quite a period where we had to not only keep ourselves safe, but ensure that the bank and everything is safe and people are safe and come around together and make it seamless for customers. Extremely proud that literally within hours, we were back in play. Our business continuity was fully in flow. I, over the years, created half my senior team sits in Mumbai and half sits here. Right. So I just handed over to the Mumbai team to completely run the show while we take care of the well-being of people and getting the systems and procedures back here. So I think that was quite a remarkable test of people coming together. I can't describe the intensity of that event, but it was quite one. COVID you mentioned, yes. I mean, COVID was not unique for any of us. It was for everybody, but we had our own challenges, but mercifully it went well, and we could contain loss of lives, continuity of business, and interestingly and happily during COVID, which is still not over, but maybe it's hopefully tapering off. The financial performance of the banks have generally been the best in the COVID period, right? I mean, we've had quite a remarkable period in the last 18, 20 months. And I guess that will continue. The other challenges are not unique to us, but I think if there's one thing that I feel a little more reassured, in the 10 odd years we've run the bank in this manner, we haven't had any crazy credit problems at a time when India has gone through 3 cycles. Even the best of banks have had some challenges. I'm not saying we've not had, but way lower than the amplitudes have been more, the frequency has been more sustained, so to say. We managed it because we took fairly conservative calls. All through this period, our gross NPA never crossed 3%. And many of you who follow the banking industry know that it was close to 8-10% and 15-16% for some banks. I think that's a call we took of not getting terribly aggressive about credit. One could argue it's conservative, but I think in banking, conservatism pays. So that was one thing which I feel quite excited by, the fact that we could grow, but not very thoughtlessly or mindlessly. Yes, we sacrificed some margins, but I think we protected the balance sheet and capital was, well conserved. So these would be some, we can go on, but yeah, I would think these could be some of those things you can see.
Yeah, great. I think Shyam, from sitting on the other side of being from the investment side, I do understand what you say, and I think you did a tremendous job over the last 3 years, particularly when India reeled under tremendous fiscal issues, be it COVID or the NBFC debacles, etc. I think federal bank stood out tall. So just to pick up on the COVID part and thereon, federal bank per se, if looked at has been more working on the retail, the mid-market SME kind of clientele. And I think during COVID, you supported them very well with all the support of the government schemes, etc. So at this point today, there are a lot of entrepreneurs in our amidst our the team here. So could you talk a little bit about what are the products available specifically for a SME mid-market client who could come to you from the REC stable? Any such schemes that you have particularly for the SME sector?
Yeah, I think the mantra of the bank or the vision statement of the bank to be most admired, digitally enabled for small, medium, micro establishments of India. So the three parts. Admired, second is digital, third the segment is small, medium, micro establishments. So this is what we give a lot of attention to. Without singling out any one scheme, there are, if you take our entire portfolio of credit of 140,000, 135,000 crores, well over 75,000 crores is targeted at and is already handed over to customers who are in the mid-market, small and medium micro establishments. That's where a big chunk of our business is, say 70,000, half of the business. And so it's quite widespread across geography, across segment, across products, across various industry categories. And we generally like to start early with them and try and give more personalized, bespoke kind of propositions to them so that they are able to grow with us. And the struggle often in the small and micro establishments, which many who are entrepreneurs will know best, is their ability to keep financial consistency and financial rigors. Often their cash flows are never consistent. They have various challenges, and they are most vulnerable to local events. And particularly when the upstream businesses go through pain, they have obviously pain. COVID has been pretty harsh on them. Yes, the government schemes of GECL, the guaranteed programs are all very helpful. And what has transformed more recently is certainly the formalization of that segment with GST. We are seeing enormous opportunity to underwrite based on actually they don't have to produce new documents as long as their GST returns are well filed. We can make a lot of interpretation based on that. So I would say to any of our friends who are in this, I'm not saying that it's easy, but certainly way better now with the formalization of the economy, with a lot more digital footprint being available, GST being one of the prominent ones. And the PLI scheme that has come up more recently is going to be quite, in some sectors, 13, 14 sectors, that the PLI scheme is going to be quite game changing for downstream also. So as a bank, we are quite focused on, we have three business segments that look at it. One is the retail needs of these small businesses. Second is the business banking requirements of these small businesses. And then a little more up tiered is the commercial banking. So we have, and of course, at the higher end is the corporate banking. So we have propositions, we have field capabilities that are targeting them. And increasingly, if the customer has, I'm not saying large bank balances, more demonstrable cash flows and or financial discipline that they can demonstrate, I think there's a credit line that can be offered. And then you have to start small and keep working through.
Great. So I will ask you to share a contact number, the person,
Sure.
with Vani probably, so that all our the alumni can contact me.
Yeah, no problem.
On a commercial basis. Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
So other big area that in India is becoming important is the equity capital, right? While the banks can give working capital facilities or loans, but what is Federal Bank doing what is your strategy there in terms of arranging equity capital or through, say, investment banking activities, or putting in some capital into startups? So anything that you would like to share on that?
Yeah, sure. Two parts. About 5 years back, we set up something called Launchpad. In fact, the facility was set up in Cochin and Bangalore. And this was more as an enabler for even before the sort of a heavy velocity of activity happening in the startup community now. 5-6 years back, it's a little less pronounced as it is today. We set up something called Launchpad, and we set aside about something equivalent of a 10 crore fund. Not that it did take off, but we were the first to attempt something like that. And at Launchpad, there is literally a physical location where a young, bright engineer or somebody with a software idea, all he had is an idea and no physical infrastructure. He could walk into our center. It was a digitally equipped Wi-Fi with some bean banks thrown in, and they could come sit there, do their programming, whatever, or the idea can manifest. And we even tied up with the legal and the advisory community for them to go out and get advice on how to set up. And the idea was these companies we could invest in, we could make them our customers, we could make them our vendors, we could take stake in. So all combinations were tried. But I'll be honest, in the first 3 years, we could succeed only with 3. Either we did a bad job, or they didn't find it attractive, or we got the wrong crowd. So we didn't pursue that. So what we did after that, we tied up with Equirus. Equirus is we've invested in Equirus, which is an investment banking stroke wealth management outfit where we have a stake. So it's in some sense our associate company, who do a lot of advisory and help raise capital. But that's at a little at the higher end. It's certainly not at the for a very fresh startup. So a fresh startup, we can only be a lender if there are opportunities. But I think today the ecosystem that is available for fresh startups and to get them going, and the bright ones are not willing to dilute equity early in their life. Everybody is in this unicorn mode, so they don't want to let go of in an early stage and get a bank in and put seed. So to that extent, I think our participation in brand new startup community is more an advisor, supporter, vendor, not as a lender.
Sure.
Not as an investor.
Yeah. So great, and I hope that people here can benefit from working with Federal in some form, and Equirus also. So just before we go on to the digital part, technology part of the discussion, I want to ask you this. I don't want to let you go without this. So we heard a lot about you from the various echelons of Federal Bank, the leadership traits that you built in you. You're a kind of a self-styled person, if I can say so. Though you read a lot, which we understand. So a lot of things from what you write to your employees at large have been very inspiring. The Bumblebee stories, the Atomic Habits, the Flywheel Effect, and Ben-Hur, etc. So I just want to share a couple of things of these, which are more interesting for us and what we can also take up in our own lives.
Thanks. About 5 years, one of the things in any large organization is about, I believe you can never communicate enough. Whatever you say, it doesn't reach the audience you want it to. And at all points in time, there's Chinese whispers, what I say, what we visualize, and the last man on the ground may have an entirely, even today it may be happening, but hopefully we can cut that noise. And with availability of technology, the democratization of the organization becomes much flatter. So you are able to reach many layers with the same consistency of information. So in the early days, it was more audio, weekly, monthly calls, and the usual stuff that any large organization does. And with 5 years back, we implemented Yammer, Microsoft's intra-office, equivalent of a social media, Facebook for the Facebook within the organization, so to say. So I said, maybe that's a great way for me to reach out to every employee. So on a whim, I started writing in 2016 on a Sunday to every employee, which has now become a bug. Every Sunday morning, 6:45, I have to write. So for the last 5 years, I've written 250 posts. And each post, you have to try to be a little innovative because you're reaching out. There's a sense of fatigue and boredom that creeps in. So my fairly dumb head has to think of something to say every week. So I work very hard to think about what it is, and it has universal appeal because a 50-year-old senior colleague was a 25, 22-year-old fresher, all should relate to it. And it should be reasonably motivating. So I use examples you mentioned, Ben-Hur or Bumblebee or Lollipop, or every week we have to think of something. Bumblebee is something that I'm hugely a personal fan of. As you probably know, the Bumblebee, according to the laws of laws of physics, the wingspan of the Bumblebee is not wide enough. So actually it cannot fly. The good news is Bumblebee doesn't know that. So it flaps its wing and flies. So the lesson is don't give up, just keep trying, right? Just don't get constrained by anything. So I like this, we try each week to come up with something, and I hope it reaches out to many employees. Yeah, it's quite fascinating, quite a personally keeps my mind awake. I have to reach out to many, and I challenge myself to do it. I do think about stopping it, but it's almost when I say no, I start believing no, I shouldn't stop. So we've been at it almost for 5 years now.
Great. So moving on to the technology changes that everybody's been asking about, and we've been seeing from a payment, model, UPI, and then Paytm, the QR codes, the way, we used to probably think credit card is a great thing. Then, so many things have changed last 2-3 years, and it's India at the helm of innovation. Looking at even credit scoring models, which are more automated, and, touchless lending and stuff like that, right? So I'm sure you are faced with new competition, new people starting up with pools of capital backing them and challenging different parts of your business operation. So if you just take it probably a little segment by segment, be it lending or liability side, or in terms of the fee structures. So what are the things that are hurting a bank, the old age bank, as we know, and how are these new fintechs coming in? So what are the challenges that you see, and how are you tackling them?
No, firstly, KK, we've I'm big on these mantras. So 5 years back we created a mantra, 6 years back, digital at the fore, human at the fore. In fact, that's why I requested for today's topic to be humanizing banking, right? I genuinely think the more digital you get, the more human you actually get. The future of digital is human, as they say, right? So the more and more you get digital, it actually should mimic human beings and try to be as empathetic as human beings do. Right? So we often think of digital is equal to 0 or 1. And I often think about digital as being, can it be the best version of ourselves? Now, these are easy things to say in a meeting and get on with it. So we have to put teeth to it. And that's a lot of hard work. But at a larger level, banking is getting transformed, it's getting challenged. You don't know where technology ends, where banking begins, because this is now, seamless. And banks are getting challenged. The good and the important part in the current ecosystem in India, I think, and this is my personal view, is actually advantage banks. And the reason is the regulations in India yet require somebody with a banking license to do clearing and to do the stuff that ultimately has to complete the transaction, right? And that license holder is a bank. So if you see yourself as the core owner of that license, and then you tap into the ecosystem, which is the enormously exciting ecosystem of fintechs and various developments that are happening in India, then you're better off leveraging that system. So as a bank, we've chosen to be, hopefully, a favored partner of many fintechs. I can say on the new account origination side, only Federal has 2 neobanking partnerships in India, and both successful, Epify and Jupiter, right? We're working with many more for many other areas. And the reason is these very bright startups who are doing exceptionally well, they need a core banking platform. So if we have a great API stack that can connect into them and make it seamless, they enjoy the experience. And we as a bank, we need distribution. We need new client bases. So if we understand and structure a partnership, as of now, it's working. I'm not saying this is for eternity because we don't know what the regulations will shape. My own bias, belief is that if you read into all the tea leaves and look at what the regulators are saying, they're quite conservative about letting who gets a banking license, right? I mean, they're quite prudent about it. So if I have a banking license and we can make sure that our license is well respected and leveraged, I do think this collaboration of fintech is going to be explosive. We said branch light, distribution heavy, one more of our mantras. I haven't added a single, no, not a single, I've added only 20 branches in the last 6 years when the industry grew some 10,000 branches. But our business, as you said, is more than grown because we increased our digital footprint, we increased our feet on street, we increased our RM capability. And we said, if somebody walking around with a device in his hand is a new branch, he doesn't have to, physical infrastructure is not required. So wherever you are, I can be a branch for you. So the digital capability, the partnership with fintechs, the various our own digital creations are, all these are, it's a permanent journey. It's unfortunately never over, but I think it's going to be something which is game changing, and that's our belief, and we're investing heavily into it. We've created almost like a mini fintech bank within our own bank, which is focused only on this community of fintechs, which they hopefully will leverage us and we will leverage them.
Sure. I think we do understand from what you say that probably a lot of recruitment is happening on the technology side, basically both laterally and freshers. And we have many aspiring techies here and management grads on the call. So if you probably could take a couple of minutes to spell out what kind of people investments that you're making in the bank or any other bank in India would be making at this point in time, which will give some idea about a career guidance for a lot of these people here. It would be great to understand what's happening on the career front for these youngsters, the technology guys.
If you look at the new recruitment, most banks are making, and no exception. I think there's a sort of a mad rush to get engineers in. And I think the brighter or the more committed ones have all got opportunities. And engineering, not just in the sense of coding. I think that era is probably long gone, right? I mean, it's the ability to transform activities into technology-enabled solutions are endless. And if you look at what has already happened and what is likely to happen in the coming years, how are you going to mine data? How are you going to make sure that the client experience is so rich that and seamless and tailored to that individual that he or she believes that he or she is the only customer for that bank? So that level of personalization can happen only with exceptionally strong use of technology and science. So I think the new recruitment, all that is happening, a large number of them are happening from graduate engineers or people with that kind of a bias. And not only at our bank, I think at an industry level. I just was seeing a presentation by one of the leading banks in India today. They are talking about that number of people in their IT departments is well over 1,000 people, right? And it's no surprise. I mean, if our bank has 250, I guess 1,000 is no big deal. So I think this is just in the IT team, and in every line function, there are going to be a bunch of people who need to understand. So I think this is going to be quite game changing, and people who have that bent of mind, opportunities are going to be quite explosive.
Sure. That's great, and I think with so much of addition to the banking sector from clients like new to banking customers, I think there's been a huge addition done by some of the large banks, including yours. I think the pool of business is going to grow significantly in the many years to come. So probably one last question from my side, and then we will give it over to Raja to talk to you on some of the areas on blockchain, etc. So what is your advice to somebody who wants to aspire to be a CEO of a bank? Things are changing. So in the new era, what's your advice to an aspirant CEO?
I often, when I took over as an MD, I always thought I will be the pigeon and the others will be the statue. Then I realized I am the statue and the others are the pigeon. So I often tell people who have ambition to become any leadership, you need enormous ability to stay the course and have thick skin and endurance. above everything else, to my mind, and that's why I'm an unabashed fan of Rahul Dravid. I am a big believer of consistency and staying the course and just doing the right things all the time. So for a young executive, I often say, soil your hands very early in your life. Don't believe that it's going to come to you easy, and be a devoted learner. And most importantly, you have to go through the grind, but even more importantly, it won't be one straight line, and have enormous endurance. Don't give up. Don't give up. Just don't give up. Period. Stay the course.
Sure. That's great. And I would probably now ask Raja to kind of come in on some of the other questions
Raja,
that we have.
Venkat Krishna, KK, different little question. Raja, Malik here. Hello.
Go ahead.
Raja?
Go ahead. Yeah, go
Raja,
ahead.
couple of quick light questions before we get back to blockchain. Some friends of Shyam are waiting to ask him some questions. Is Ravi Vishwanathan here on the call?
Yes,
Ravi?
Mali.
So you had something to
Ravi.
ask of Shyam.
Day. This is a setup.
No, Shyam. I'm. Why am I not seeing Shyam on the screen?
I'm very much there. I'm very much there.
Okay.
Ravi.
I'm fascinated by those 4 bats which are right behind you. I
Uh,
think there is a story to be told. People talk about MS Dhoni, but we knew MS Dhoni in 1982. So I just wanted to know, what is this whole wicket keeping thing that helped you in your current role? That was question number 1. I have a second question, which is, Mali said this was a light question, but I thought I should ask you a serious question. I also wanted to know your views on crypto and whether it's going to disrupt not just the banking, but the monetary systems that we are used to. So 2 questions. One is from a leadership perspective, what does the MS Dhoni of REC Trichy have to say about how it has helped them in the current role as you grew up into this enormous leadership position? And the second is more about understanding how this cryptocurrency is going to disrupt everything. Thank you, Shyam. And you were awesome.
Ravi. Thanks, Ravi. No, I think the wicket keeper, I don't know if I can make a big situation out of it, but certainly these are, like I mentioned, Ravi, staying the course, right? And being a keeper is a thankless job. You know it better than me. Every time you drop, somebody is going to come after us. If you do a good one, it's part of it's expected of you. So I think it builds shapes character, and you have to sit down, bend up, and do every ball 180 balls or whatever we played every innings. It's hard work, and it trains your back. Literally, it trains your back, right? And we've had instances of bad backs too. So, but being a keeper, I do think it's in a very crude way custodian, but more importantly, it helps you realize that you have to be at it. You can't have a light moment. On crypto, my view, I must confess, I'm not the most smartest on this, but my own view, exactly what I said about fintechs in a while back. In India, I don't see it becoming a fiat currency, right? At least not immediately so. So is it going to be an investment just like a commodity? It could well be, and that may get formalized in some form. Will it be the new fiat currency, and will it be the regulatorily allowed transaction capability? I'm yet of the view that it may not, because no regulator would like to see volatility of its currency so heavy. I mean, you don't want rupee from 75 rupees to the dollar moving to 60 one evening and the next morning at 90. That doesn't work, right? I mean, you need stability of currency. So I would think crypto in its current form, I must confess my understanding is modest. It's not going to be something that's going to be something that's going to instantly transform. The core capabilities of crypto, the blockchain capability, those are, that is literally transferable across any category. But I would argue that crypto by itself, the way, will it be a currency replacement? My sense is not at least 5, 7, 10 years is my reading.
Thank you, Shyam. Thank you.
Thanks.
I love the wicketkeeper. He has to be on the ball, 180 balls.
No choice, right? No choice.
Well said. All right. Thank you, Shyam.
Thanks. Ravi and I have a separate story on wicket keeping, which we'll talk separately.
couple of other quick questions. RS, his schoolmate and cricket teammate had a question. RS. Anantraman also knows RS. RS?
Hi, Shyam.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I'm driving, so I'm not
okay.
turning on my video right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what Mali was trying to get me into. But I think Shyam has been a great keeper, and I think you're right, Shyam. Keeping is such a tough thing, and especially when you get the chance to do it. I think the Ravi knows when he doesn't get the chance, he doesn't.
We won't go there, RS. But I can remember some stumping of RS. RS was our Kumble, so I was his Dhoni.
Okay.
So, no, so it's amazing that bats, so many bats, but how many have you really used? I think
No, I thankfully have a huge collection of them, RS. I will show you when you come home. I've got about 20.
Autographed by several league people. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks,
and
RS. Last
I
question.
think as clean as you are after every game, I think your innings in Federal Bank has been fantastic. I think it's as Mali said, sometimes you don't realize that if you can't. I mean, I can't believe that you've led the bank for 13 years. Fantastic. Congrats, Shyam.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
One last question,
Thank
Raja.
you this long.
Lala, get in for a last question, and then we can move into the next formal. Lala.
Thank you, Mali. Hello, Shyam. So I'm, one thing that I of course connect with Shyam is in his IM days. So when he chose this topic of digital at the fore and humans at the core, I think what was really interesting about his philosophy of leadership, more than a bumblebee, he was a beehive. In fact, I clearly remember one of those, always his room is open, everybody walk in. It's an inviting opportunity to be in his presence. Everybody is welcome. But I think what is most important is since he's making everyone feel invited and personally everything is transient for him, success never gets to him. I think that is one of the biggest leadership attribute that he had. But Shyam, having said that, I just want to know anything that you specifically want to talk about Rahul Dravid that has brought in your leadership skills, because I know that Ravi has robbed in that Dhonification of yours during REC days, but I'm sure now you're a Rahul Dravid fan. And how is it kind of connecting you with the real world of leadership in your bank?
No, I keep saying, Ravi, that Rahul Dravid to me is the absolute example of grit, right? And I genuinely believe leadership is about grit. 16 years, 99 innings, above 50. He played 40 balls for no run. He has withstood any kind of stress and the chips were down. The famous Calcutta innings of 180. I mean, you could just go on and on and on, right? I mean, so to me, he exemplifies rigor, discipline, grit, staying the course, and quite grounded. And I think in any journey, that's hugely important, particularly in jobs like ours in banking. It's easy to do something and get a few innings and glory and go away. But I do think when you have that kind of example as Rahul, it's a little more over a long journey. It's fascinating. So yeah,
Thank you, Shyam. Thank you, Shyam. I think one thing is, I think you should be writing a book at some point in time, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thanks, Lala.
Shyam, I just want to say one thing before I give it back to Raja. I think since all of us are REC NIT here, there's something in the REC culture, NIT culture, which makes us what we are when we go into the working world, business world, and it's quite unique. Maybe the liberal culture of our times, I don't know if it's as liberal now, but it's really, it synthesizes people in a way that they are emotionally very, very connected with the environment is what I say. And Shyam is a perfect example. That's what I want to say. Okay. Back to the Bitcoin stuff for Raja.
I don't know how many of you have followed our Sanjeevani journey of Federal Bank. To me, and KK asked me, I didn't mention, to me, that's probably the epitome of reaching out to people. At the turn of COVID, we were looking for an opportunity to reach out and educate people to get vaccinated. And in fact, this coming Sunday, if you have a chance, please spend some time on the network 18 channels with the grand finale of this whole reach out of helping people get vaccination. We chose 5 districts, went into the real interiors of India. I mean, seriously interiors. None of us would have gone there. And literally tribals have been pulled out to get education on vaccination. Many of us in metros think it's sort of birthright. So it's been rivetingly important for us. Anyway, sorry, yeah, Raja.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mali, and thanks, KK, for I think moderating a few questions. So we have received quite a lot of questions on the. I mean, a lot of people have asked when they registered. Some of them got addressed by KK during the discussion, but I do have a couple of questions which Shyam, which I wanted to ask you. If you look at, I think you made a statement. Digital is the best that you have to put yourself in the front if you wanted to survive and sustain in the future. Now I'm going to talk. This question is going to come from a student's perspective. If you look at in the US, big bank and fintech and financial services companies, they go to all this, Urbana-Champaign to UT Austin, to you name it, and they take the cream of computer science students. So what is the plan? I'm not sure. See, I'm not connected with India. I wanted to understand, will Federal Bank or banks like yourself or your competition, are they going and hiring the cream of techie guys from the engineering colleges? Because you said you're not a great fan of lateral. That's what that's the statement which you made. So what is your perspective? Does India banks wants to go and hire the best techies from the college? In that way, I think, because everything is a fintech. It is all about digital. Digital is all about experience. So what is your perspective on that?
No, I think recruitment per se, Raja, today is happening at scale, and many of them are fresh engineers. Now, in a large organization, if you bring in a bunch of laterals from wherever, even if they have the finest of experience, you usually have a cultural sort of clash. You don't want to bring in 100 new heroes. First, the culture clashes amongst the 100 heroes because they've all not come from the same mother. They've come from different places. So they're going to have their own egos. I'm bigger than you, you're bigger than me. And then you have got a bunch of 12, 13,000, 15,000 people who are literally looking up and saying, hey, okay, now what are you going to teach me new? So these are organizational nuances. So you have to keep walking that fine balance consistently. So yeah, if you bring laterals, they have to literally earn the respect of a large number of people. So you don't want to bring a bunch of 100, 200, 300 people, but you'd rather bring a few who can have the influence on many and get a lot of young, bright kids and give them the opportunity to flourish. Because today, and I'm not saying anything new, technology is not the preserve of old or young. Technology is anybody's. A 90-year-old gentleman can do the same as an 18-year-old kid or a 12-year-old kid. Chances are both are as effective. So I would argue recruiting fresh is good. Shaping them, giving them opportunity, experiences is actually a leadership capability. So organizations have to configure themselves to make sure that you are able to give these people that opportunity and give them early answer. And for every 10, there are going to be 6 failures. You can be sure. In fact, if you're 6 failures, you're lucky. Okay. Right. So I would think that's the way at least I visualize this.
Raja, I just want to intervene to say something. You could take it from there. My dear friend Maya Shyam is on the call. So,
okay.
Okay. So a couple of words, if she wants to say, or Shyam can say about Maya. Raja, just a couple of words. I thought I should bring it up because she's on the call.
Yeah.
I think. No, what do I say, Raja? She is somebody asked me what is the IIM all about. I have to say my IIM is only about Maya. I found her on my batch. She's my batchmate, and she shaped everything for me. So I have enormous gratitude and thanks that she stayed the course. Literally, she everything I say at work, she's done at home, right? She stayed the course. So and she's we met on batch, and so for me, IMC is all about meeting my life partner. So yeah, Maya, if you're there, you can say hi to everybody. She's probably I didn't realize.
Maya's here, but wants to stay silent, I guess.
Okay. She's
Okay.
she's chosen to be in the background always. Thanks anyway.
This is the second most common thing in IAM Cal. One is the move towards BFSI.
No, KK.
And the
Not
second is,
second was boss. Arey boss, there were only 7 of us who got married to our batchmates. There were 140 people who didn't.
KK, don't open old wounds, please.
So Shyam, I think in the interest of time, so going back to your earlier response, so you're saying, I think, the banks are, still you guys are going to hire, the bunch of, fresh kids from the college. I think because I want to give confidence to the students who are also, listening in
Sure.
call. Okay, good. Now, this is my personal experience. While the Indian banks are investing heavily on digital and fintech, but still from an experience perspective, when I say experience, when I get into a Wells Fargo, okay, it's been like 27 years that I came out of the country. When I go to a Wells Fargo, when I go to a Bank of America, the experience I get it, to do a transaction, right? Still, we are not able to get from even HDFC is trying. In fact, one of the questions I think somebody has asked, while HDFC is trying to put all the big bets on the technology and making it a pure play a digital banking company, still that experience is low. It is why? Is it because of the vision or it is the technology hindrances? I wanted to understand. I don't know whether it is the right question because
I'll give you.
Yeah, practical.
I'll give you my 2 bits. First thing, I think it's horses for courses, right? I think it depends on which lens you wear. I was just last week, my niece is married to an American, as in white American. They were visiting us just last week, 8-9 days back. He was just stunned. He's a Stanford educated, as bright as they come guy, 32-year-old, stunned to see what you can do digitally in India on the banking side.
Okay.
I would argue that today India's banking capability using technology are really top tier. I have to say that I am not a customer of any of your banks there, but I'm a very avid watcher of everything that goes on. I would argue that today we are no less or in fact better. And not because just the bank is better. India's ecosystem with UPI, Aadhaar, Jam Trinity, the NPCI ecosystem is something that no other country else has. As I speak to you, I could transfer money into your account. Of course, there are exchange control issues. With just as seamless as it gets. And I'm told in the US you can't do that easily. Right? So I would think the capabilities are very what should I say? Some degree of Indianization of everything happens because there is that you don't want to over-engineer something to look too sophisticated when your audience wants it very differently. So that could be the only thing. It depends on the lens you wear, but I think capability, conveniences, functionality, speed, ruggedness, low vulnerability, I would think India features right up there, if not the best. But I don't know when you visited India recently, but you would be surprised, Raja.
Okay.
Raja,
Yeah.
just to mention, Dr. Anantraman, Dr. Subbayan, and our dean and Dr. Bakhtar here. So Anantraman, maybe you want a question. You can slot it whenever you find convenient during this, Raja. I leave it to you, basically.
Yeah, sure. I am coming to the professors category now. So I think I wanted to start like this, right? I think if you look at Shyam, I think yes, you are a CEO. We are really proud that being from an REC NIT alumni, you are a CEO of a bank. If you look at, I think people always say that, hey, why only Indians are I think excelling in the tech field, like including our the new Twitter kid, right? The new Twitter kid, Parag. But you also see that people like Geeta Gopinath, IMF, she's taking over the deputy managing director role, and Venkata Krishnan, Barclays, the new Barclays CEO. So there is a chance for for Indians also to survive. Being a top in the global financial field, right? So there is an argument going on the Twitter why Chinese are not coming into this sector, etc. Anyhow, so I'm just I think as a sequel, what I wanted to do is I think finance is important. I think the concept of finance is very important. At least I'm not sure. I think, in the final year when when I was studying, I did a little bit of things, but definitely I think for people like you, I think your IIMs, I think really shaped us. But since some of the professors from both Department of Management Studies and also engineering folks are there, I think Anandaram also asked a question. What do you think about the role of the finance? Do you think that finance needs to be inculcated in the syllabus, if not in the first 3 years in the core engineering, but at least in the final year? What is your take on it? Because
Absolutely yes.
yeah,
Absolutely yes. Not for any other thing, not from a professional point of view. For your personal success, you need to know it. In fact, a year and a half, just before COVID, 2 years back, Mali and I spent a day in REC with two of our batchmates were doing great work. I don't know if they are in the call by any chance. Bhaskar and
Bhaskar, he had
Shyam.
to leave. Bhaskar was there. He had to leave. Yeah.
They
I
were
think Shyam might
doing,
be there.
Bhaskar and Shyam were doing great work on giving engineering students orientation in this, and they just requested us to come and give a session. So I do think it's a big one of merging technology, financial capability, engineering, as there's got to be some convergence. So I would argue yes.
okay, good. So Anantaraman, so would you like to? I mean, it need not be a question. Anything, thoughts which you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think I'm quite happy with the way in which you put that question to Shyam. And precisely that's what I wanted, because engineers are working in two environments. One is the technical side, the other one is the finance. But we lack the finance knowledge. So we cannot be a successful engineer. We cannot take some financial decisions. And that's where I thought this finance will be a big...
Absolutely, yes.
Anantraman, I have a...
Use
Anantraman,
KK,
I have
he is
a question of
outstanding.
you.
He can teach everybody a lot of stuff. KK is very good.
Anantraman, I have a question. Did you refuse any appeals from Shyam when you were umpire and he was wicket keeper?
No, certainly not. I rarely used to officiate REC's matches those days.
You should have.
There was no DR. Those days there was no DRS.
Yeah, no DRS. No, that day we were not under that technology pressure. Definitely.
Okay, I think Dr. Bhatta, Professor Bhatta, if you are there, I think you can go ahead and shoot your question. Is Bhatta there? Yeah, please.
No, I think Ravi stole my question. I had my question was on crypto and the impact of crypto on the banking sector in the long term. I think Ravi asked that question and Shyam did answer that.
Okay. So then I think let me ask the question in a different manner. So Shyam, you are not a great fan of cryptos because of the volatility. That's what you said. But in spite of that, right from Tim Cook to Elon Musk, everyone has started agreeing, the Bitcoins and the Doge coins. But that movement is going to happen. Should India be prepared for that?
I think so, yes. But India is a country that's held out current account convertibility for a long time, capital account convertibility for a long time. So I think it has to be tailored to your economy, right? And India, to that, you have to give credit to the fact that we haven't been swayed by these developments. Yeah, they're taking note of it. The regulators have been quite prudent about it. And I don't think they will rush into it. I mean, if you read all the communication that comes out from the regulators, and they are extremely aware and alive to the issue, but not willing to come under pressure. And so you would think, I mean, these things are hard to predict overnight, but I won't think it'll happen in a hurry.
Okay, good. Sounds good. Professor Umapati, are you in the Zoom call? Umapati?
So, good evening to all.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Good evening to all. So I wish to thank actually for the Federal Bank for funding a CSR fund for having a vision plan.
Thank you.
Just I wanted to tell the process. It was in the COVID wave 2. It's a tough time for everybody. We were not able to move out of the campus. It is a new experience for the faculty members and all the UG students and
we had Tulu alumni actively participating in the design, because the whole design process went on online discussion, multiple meetings and hours together. And I would like to mention the names. Actually, Dr. Ruben from Energy Department was leading the design team, and the participation to many faculty from mechanical engineering and all other departments. And one alumni, Ashwin Rajagopalan from Imperial College London, and Richard Sager from US. So they too actively all meetings they participated, and that was Ashwin Rajagopalan helped a lot in fine-tuning the design of the oxygen plant. And in that process, actually, we were able to come out with many designs, and finally we finalized one design, that proven also in the meeting. And as scheduled, actually, the fabrication is supposed to complete in 2 weeks. Then that time, because all the industries were closed, we approached BHEL, and BHEL also participated in the design process. And there was a delay in fabricating the cylinders because the BHEL also, they had a limited workforce.
Join Zoom.
Yeah, that took some delay. Because of the delay, we recently very glad to say that we inaugurated and plant is running. And all the people, president and director and chairperson of the POG, everybody attended the meeting. And from the institute side, we are thankful to Recall and Federal Bank for support provided to this plant, and very useful. And one sense, it is useful that we could interact with the industry, and finally we see the plant working. The another part is, it is in front of Oriya, where the UG, all the UG classes happen. So every UG student will see the plant, and so it is a some type of motivation to all the students that they can in future also they can come out with such a model plant in the institute. So that way, I express my sincere thank on behalf of the director, Dr. Kadabran, and our former director, Dr. Sajid Thomas, and Recall President and Krishna Sai, and Federal Bank, Thiruvarambur Balakumar, and Federal Bank, Mr. Gobakumar also was there in inauguration. So we are looking for the, myself and Ruben are discussing, we will come forward with such a societal application, and we'll look forward to CSR funding in future. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Shyam, thanks. Raja, I just want to say something, if you don't mind. Shyam, thanks so much. When you should visit campus and see the O2 generator and visit the Miyawaki forest also. Thanks to Federal Bank. Your team was outstanding, and we got the sanction in less than 48 hours. Sai is also there. So thanks so much. It was really, really useful. Raja, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Shyam, for that. The kind Jonathan from you. So I have a question here. I'm going to take 2 questions. I'm going to wrap in the interest of time. So this question comes from Sabyasachi Chowdhury. I'm just going to read. So he wants to get Shyam's view on why the credit growth in India is not picking up despite the visible signs of economic growth.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Firstly, the way India's system has grown over the last few years, formal credit and its growth it usually follows GDP growth, right? GDP growth is picked up, so you will start seeing credit growth pick up. But the banking system-led credit growth has not grown much, but people have borrowed using alternate lower cost funds. Corporates have raised money from international markets, which don't come through the Indian banking system, right? Corporate bond markets have been explosive, very cheap. So people have raised money through various other measures, and they've not used the banking system to borrow. As the economy formalizes more, as the economy starts picking up, as interest rates go up, as the cross-border money movement becomes less attractive, you will see the Indian banking system credit grow. So my guess is calendar 22, and I'm saying calendar 22, not even FY23, I think credit growth will go into the, well into the double digits and maybe early teens. And, if the economy is going to grow 7-8%, you can see credit growth maybe in excess of 15%.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. And do we have Professor Senthil Arasu or Muruganathan from the Department of Management Studies?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, please go ahead. I think you can ask your question or share any thoughts.
Yes, so I just wanted know about the financial awareness as far as the Indians are concerned when compared to the other parts of the world. And now and then there are certain breakdowns of banks. And what kind of awareness or what kind of education or Indian people to be done to the Indian people so that their choice of banks and allocation of funds could be in a much better way? Because no longer banks could be like with the kind of financial strength that the government is having, funding or helping out, bailing out banks are going to become really difficult. So from that perspective, how is that?
No, I think, see, the failures of the financial system actually are overplayed, and it's really few and far between. In any slice of time, it's the media has this notorious habit of amplifying things that are sensationalizing. So I would argue, if you look 10 years, 20 years, there will always be something that will happen. But as they say, pick your bank wisely. Come to Federal Bank, you will not have a problem. So, but on a more serious note, I don't think it's a systemic issue. The level of transparency in reporting is high. Yes, if you choose to go to unorganized, sort of low or non-regulated financiers because they are offering you higher rates of interest, that's greed. And I would suggest don't fall for that. Not you, as in any kind of people should not fall for it. But it is unfortunate, the level of financialization formally in the deep interiors and level of awareness is yet low. So one of the things that responsible banks do is run a lot of financial literacy capabilities and do a lot of outreach. The Jan Dhan program helped to bring many more people into the banking system. But you yet know of stories of people who borrow at 26, 36% and end up just servicing dues and not even paying principal. That's really the sort of underbelly of the finance system. But the formal financial system is extremely robust, and I'd encourage more and more people to educate the uneducated to bring them into the mainstream. Right? And we are ready. You're welcome.
Okay, great. Thanks. I think we are at the top of the hour. I think so. Shyam, big thanks and appreciate you spending it with us for the past 90 minutes, and KK for running a great moderation. I would also, before I hand over to Mali, I wanted to thank Professor Dr. Kanabiran and all the professors who are part of this call. Anantaraman, Dr. Bhakta, and Umapati, and also all the alumni and students who have tuned in for the past 90 minutes. So with that said, Mali, over to you to close the session.
No, just to say thanks. And Shyam, the response has been fantastic. I've been following the chat, and we had to move people to YouTube to watch this also. So it's been really fascinating. I think you share your experiences. Thanks, KK, so much. You brought the best out of Shyam. I think brilliant stuff. And Raja, you rocked as usual. We should invite Shyam to actually participate in one of our next sessions from internationally who guest speakers. Raja, what do you think of the idea?
Yes, sure. Definitely. We'll do that.
We are planning to get some Ps like Ravi Shankar of Sequoia and somebody. We'd like you to come and spend a couple of minutes asking these questions we asked of you, Shyam, if you have the time.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Shyam.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Bhakta. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Kanabiran. Thanks.
I hope your families are not cursing you to have spent Sunday
Federal
evening.
Bank recruiting periodically the MBA grads and the MTech students in large numbers.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
It's a question. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.